Hey everybody, Steve Hupp here, Practice Director for Field Service at Thunder, here with another SFS tip video, and really excited to post about this one because this came directly from a conversation that I've had with a recent customer. We were doing a small advisory engagement where we were providing some recommendations, and this particular recommendation came up, and it was something that I hadn't really thought of doing before. And so as we kind of talked through it, me and my customer, and I went in and kind of tested out and built a solution that I think is kind of it's kind of neat. So I wanted to post about it. As it was advisory, right? We didn't actually build out this solution, or we haven't built it yet. It's just sitting as kind of like a POC recommendation. And so the use case really was about was around more communication with the technicians through the field service mobile app. So in my customer's use case, they have a lot of contractors, and those contractors are obviously doing work on their behalf. And one of the challenges that they're having, just like a lot of customers that work with contractors, is they're having to constantly get communications, updates, things like that from the contractors, or would like them to be able to communicate more effectively. For things even as simple as like, hey, are you on site yet? Are you done with the job yet? Are you going to the next one? And so I immediately thought, as they described that, like, oh, custom notifications, right? Like, this sounds like a great use case for this. They're supported in Field Service Mobile, a great way to be able to define specific business criteria to then kick off a notification, send that to the Field Service Mobile app, and then be able to go well above and beyond kind of the standard notifications, which, again, the standard ones, right, you have to make the user a follower of the record through, that setting in field service settings. And then there's only certain criteria, right, certain events that will actually prompt that sending of that notification. So, if you want really a complete flexibility to be able to say, well, hey, if this checkbox checks, I want to send one, right? I don't really care, if the standard notifications allow it or not. I want to send a notification. So I was like, oh, custom notification. So I brought that up to my customer, and they were like, great, it sounds like that would work. What about replying, right? Can you actually do like a two-way dialogue with these custom notifications? And my initial gut reaction was like, well, no, like, you can't do that, right? Like, it's not really the focus, or that's not really the use case of custom notifications on platform. It's really meant to just be kind of like an outbound, right? Like, just say, hey, send this message, right? Send this notification across desktop or mobile or field service mobile, and away you go. But then I started thinking about it. My wheels kind of started turning on, well, wait a minute, could we actually make it a two-way dialogue or a two-way conversation? And what would that look like, both from, the back-end perspective as well as from the mobile perspective? And then what would the differences be with like something like Chatter? Even though I know a lot of organizations these days have kind of moved away from Chatter and are using Slack, Slack isn't supported in field service mobile just yet. So you've got Chatter there to kind of contend with. And so I was like, well, how would that differentiate? And so anyway, that's what I kind of went in to try to build around and try to solution. And so that's what I'm going to kind of walk through here today, is an actual two-way kind of dialogue conversation between, say, the back office, like a dispatcher, and a technician. So I'm going to start here in the Gantt, because the way that I worked this use case in my head was, this would be a post-scheduling activity. This would be something that, I've already scheduled it to Alan Reed, and for whatever reason, I've got to send a notification to him, right? It could be like, hey, can you make sure to check in when you get on site, or have you gotten on site yet? Please let me know when you do, like, so on and so forth, right? And so what I did was I created some flows, right? I'm not going to go into the flows in detail today, but if you're interested, please leave a comment in the comments of the video, and I can come back and do kind of a tutorial of the flows that I built. But in this case, I've got some flows, and one of them is an initial kind of like sending a message flow that I'm going to initiate directly from the Gantt. So I put a Visualforce page in, put my flow around. It's like 3 or 4 lines of code, right? I've been using the same 4 lines of code for years. You just point it to your flow, point it to a variable you're going to pass in, and then you can, embed it into a custom action. So I've got a custom action here, and then I'm going to click this, and it's going to initiate my flow, right? So I've got my flow here. One thing that you'll notice right out of the gate is I've got this previous message section, and I did that very purposefully because, again, as a future iteration, I do feel like a dedicated Lightning Web Component, which unfortunately wouldn't be available in the Gantt just yet, but if you were doing it from a record, for example, a dedicated Lightning Web Component can make a lot of sense, because then you could actually like do like the bubbles, and you could show like the sender, the recipient, things like that. In my case, right, I didn't have the ability to do that because I'm not a coder. But it is very important when you're having a two-way dialogue to be able to have context, right, and know what you're responding to. So the way that I kind of built my flow was to pull in the previous message so that I can show the user what they're actually responding to, or what they're responding to when they're actually typing in their message. Other than that, I just wanted to make it super clean and super easy, right? I didn't want a lot of fields to capture. I didn't want a lot of data to capture. I wanted it to be that true, like, click a button, send a message, move on with your day, or move on with your task type of thing. So I'm just going to simply type in, let me know when on site, right? So very, very simple, just simple message, and I'm going to hit send. So that closes down. I'll open up my mobile here in a second so you can see all of that. But first and foremost, I want to kind of highlight what's happening in the background with my flows. So upon me initiating that message, right, I've got a messaging tab here. I've got two custom objects. I've got a conversation object and a message object. So if I open up my conversation here, this actually got created dynamically based off of me initiating that message. So I went and I checked to make sure there wasn't already a conversation ongoing between like Steve Hupp and Alan Reed, who Steve Hupp is the backend dispatcher user, Alan Reed the technician. And if it doesn't find one, then it opens up and it creates a conversation. Now this right here is this is the only code-based thing that I built, and I didn't even build this. I took this from Unofficial SF. It's a custom component that I embedded into a flow that in essence displays these records, these message records as these boxes. And we'll see these kind of like, build as I continue to go on and respond, from mobile and things like that. But you can see here, this is, very, very basic. I've got a sender, I've got a recipient, and I've got a body of the message, which, as you can see, let me know when on site. That's exactly what I sent. So again, very straightforward, very simple. And the nice thing about this is so I've got this in the context of a work order, but you could definitely expand this to tie these conversations to different objects, If your use case was like, oh, I want to do this off leads, for example, you could absolutely just create a lookup to a lead. If you wanted to do it to multiple records and you wanted to kind of have some checks in the flows to say like, well, go find me the lead. Oh, it's not there. Oh, go see if it's a work order. Oh, it's not there. Go see if it's a work order line item, right? So on and so forth. So a ton of flexibility in creating a custom object and being able to tie it to multiple records, and then keep those conversations in the context of the record to go back and even reference or report on, so on and so forth, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to screen share with my mobile. So give me 1 second. I'll bring that up to make sure, just to prove that I'm not doing any demo trickery here. I'm going to just bring this up, and there we go. So there is my mobile. So the first thing we can see down there is we do see there is a notification pending in field service mobile, right? So that was driven directly from the backend, from the initiation of the message. So if I go into field service mobile here, we can see here's my schedule view. So if I'm Alan Reed, right, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my schedule maybe, and then what I see down at the bottom is I see there's a pending notification. And so I'm going to open that notification up, and we see, let me know when's on site, right, when I'm on site. And as you can see here, there's a mix of kind of like chatter messages and the custom notifications. I did that on purpose because I wanted to really see kind of the differences. And so one of the big things that I noted was like, if you were to click on this chatter message, for example, which is this one right here, that's not, kind of the lightning bolt. If I click on this, it takes me to the overview, right? So if I would have gotten that chatter message, I would have clicked on it, I would have come to the overview, I would have had to go over to the feed component, which is kind of hidden in the right-hand side. Then I would have had to find the specific chatter message that was sent to then respond to it, right? So a little bit of a click, there's a few clicks involved there. And so I felt like, just putting the custom notification, being able to click on that, having this custom object record that's right here, it shows me the body, it shows me who it's from, shows me who it's to, I thought was very clean and didn't require as many clicks. Not only that, when, if you talk about having a dialogue back and forth with chatter, comments actually do not initiate new notifications. So like if you wanted to do this through chatter, you would in fact have to make a new chatter post each and every time, which kind of defeats the purpose of chatter a little bit, because the point is that you create a post and you can have all these comments and things associated to it. But unfortunately, if you comment on a chatter post, it does not initiate another notification, right, to the mobile app from the backend. So anyway, so if I got this notification, I would open it up. It says, let me know when you're on site. And then what I did was I created a simple action to reply. And then this is just going to bring up a very similar experience, right? And as I kind of noted earlier in the Gantt, what we see here is we see my previous message, we see who sent it, and then it says, let me know when on site, right? So now I've got this context, right? I know what I'm responding to, and I could say, I'm here, thanks, right? Put that in there, something very simple. Again, I wanted very little data to capture. I wanted it to be kind of a true click a button, put in a message, click another button, move on. So I'm just gonna hit next here, right? So that got sent. I can go right back to my schedule here, dive back into my appointment, and then if we look over here, right, kind of in the background, I've got a bell icon, right? So this is indicating that I do have a new custom notification that was sent directly from mobile. It's the one that I just sent. So if I click on this, we see, here you go, right? Alan Reed, I'm here, thanks. So came right directly to me, right? I don't necessarily have to be in the Gantt in order to see it. I could have navigated away. I could have looked at something else. And that notification is right there. It opens up, right? And I can either click on that notification, which will take me right to the message record, or as I mentioned, right, I can refresh this. Let's do a quick refresh here. And then we'll see that the messages are starting to build. And so now we can see, there's my message here. I'm here, thanks, sent right there. And again, this is a custom component, but I did embed like my reply flow directly into this. So I could respond directly from here if I wanted to respond to the message. Or I could even go back to the Gantt, right? I'll let the Gantt load, and I could actually initiate a response, again, directly from the Gantt, from the service appointment. And then it'll be a little different of an experience when I go to do that, right? So if I actually, I'm going to move my mobile again out of the way. Apologies for a little bit of scrolling. So if I come here and I say send message again, right, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me if there's a conversation that I want to continue. And the reason why I built this out is because there could be multiple conversations happening on a record, right? There could be like, the dispatcher and another technician. There could be, my hope is to eventually try to build this out to see if I could do like technician to technician type communication. But in this case, I just want to continue the conversation between Alan Reed and Steve. I open that up and it says, there's my previous message, right? So I know exactly what I am, responding to again with the context. And I can say, great, I'll just leave it at great. And then I'll hit send, right? Again, very simple, very clean, very easy. And then right as I send that, we get that notification down there in the bottom in the bell, in the tabs section. I click on that. I see that message right there, right? It says great. Again, I can click on it. I can go back in. I can hit reply. I can say awesome, like that, right? Hit next. And it just comes right back through, right? So there's my conversation. So now what I've done is I've initiated a two-way conversation between like a backend dispatcher and a technician. Very easy, very clean. I can see the notifications coming in, both on mobile. I can see the notification coming in on the desktop. I can open that notification up. I can respond to it directly from the notification. I can respond to it from the Gantt, right? And then again, I can jump into the conversation itself. Let me move my mobile out of the way one more time. Apologies for that. Going back into the conversation, right, that loads up and there's all my messages in context, right? So I can see all my messages. You can report on these. You could kick off other custom notifications or automation off of this, which is another limitation of Chatter, right? Very difficult to kick off automation based off of like a Chatter post or a Chatter message containing certain, letters or characters or something like that. Whereas here, I've got a custom object. I could drive additional automation off of that custom object. And effectively, be able to go do other things. And then if I wanted to see the context, again, as a technician, I could actually click on the conversation, go to the related, and I can actually see the messages there as well. So here is where I could go as a technician in the field, see the context, right? I've got them sorted so that the newest message is always showing up on top. And then I can clearly see all those and I can, continue to go back and forth with the dispatcher, with the technician, and have that direct two-way conversation. Which again, the last thing in terms of comparing it to Chatter, I mean, again, Chatter is great, but with Chatter, anybody who has access to the record has the ability to go and see those messages and comment. This is really meant to be that direct two-way communication, right? If you just want to have that direct interaction with that single technician, or maybe that group of technicians, right? Just you and the dispatcher, or you and a back office person and the technicians in the field, quickly being able to send those messages, receive those messages, and effectively have that two-way dialogue. So that's it. Right, very, very simple, through custom notifications, which is a standard platform feature, through the use of some flows and some automation, being able to create a two-way dialogue directly between like the back office and a technician in the field. And as I mentioned, I think there's a lot of possibilities for something like this in terms of connecting it to other objects, potentially doing something like tech-to-tech type communications, based off of field updates or things like that directly within the field service mobile application. So very excited to continue to expand on this, and hope it was helpful. And as always, if there's anything that myself or Thunder can do for your field service implementation, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Thanks so much.